Right, I am live again, and James is not here because I have screwed up something. Let me just send him the link that he needs to get to. There it is. And hopefully he's going to check his email, because what happened is we messed up on the time. I told him I was 6 of you already here. Scorpio, what a loyal gamma. He's always there, waiting to see if he can snipe. LS16. And I haven't spoken to James in quite a while. We were actually supposed to do a couple of things together, work on a couple of projects. Ethan W, audio and video working well. Good to see you. Thank you. Please tell Jimmy Fox the Gamma say hello. Well, you can tell him yourself. Hopefully he will turn up. I know he got up about 45 minutes ago, but I was playing a hand of poker with my wife and a friend, and they kept me busy until just a couple of minutes ago, and then I'd forgot to switch on my super duper internet wizardry thing. So I'm hoping that James is looking at his email, because I pinged him an email to say, yeah, we're still on. Originally he thought it would be my 11 o'clock, which is like his 8 a.m. But actually it's going to be my midnight before before he turns up, really. So well, we'll just hang about. Mandy Joan, hello. We'll just hang about. Tell you what, if no one else joins, I'll get Scorpio to entertain us a bit with, tell us what the latest gamma movements are. We're curious. We're a curious people here. We like to know what the gammas are getting up to. Slanty Chauffeur Bear, hello. 8 of you, 7 of you. Ah, there he is. Here he is. So I think he's in the green room right now. And I am just gonna shove him in there. That's it. Hello, James. Oh, I've got to.
How are you? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Perfect, actually.
Fantastic. How are you, G? Long time no see, brother.
Yeah, good. Really good, actually. Tired, but good. So yeah, let's catch up a little bit.
Thank you for accommodating me and staying up till beyond the witching hour.
Oh, I wasn't referring to that, to be honest. I'm just tired because I work my ass off every day. In fact, the last couple of days has been a bit hectic because, but then I thought about it today. Just I was really tired. I took a nap, which with 3 kids and whatever, it's difficult to do. But and I felt because every hour that goes by that I'm not doing something, like moving crap around or pruning trees or digging up earth or finding out what the latest tractor that I need to get, there's just so much to do. It's unreal. But I feel like I'm wasting time.
I haven't kept up with what you've been doing. Last time we were emailing, which it may have been last year. You were going a little quiet online because you were preparing for a move, and then I see you're in much more esteemed environs there. So I think I saw a little clip of you on the roof of a rural-looking area. So it looks like you've finally gotten out of the zombie apocalypse nightmare of London. Am I right?
That's right. I have, and the plan is to become the warlord of this little citadel that's pre-built. It's already got walls. I just need to man them. It's so I'm in a little town in northern Italy.
Gather the troops.
And
Fabulous.
yeah, we're like a few hectares of land here, and yeah, it's great. The kids are running around in the forest now and stuff. My
Now the
my
world can end.
Yep.
You'll find now.
My
Yeah.
son has taken to making sure he rips off the mask of, I am literally building a little group of hardcore zealots, and there's people moving to
I've
be
noticed.
here, buying houses to be here, and so on. And one of the guys is already here, and he helps me out a lot. I mean, the sense of community that comes from the few zealots that are, you know, they're not all like me, thank God. The world can only take so many
They
Kurgans.
couldn't be.
No, there
It
can
wouldn't
only
be
be one.
sustainable. Yeah.
But the loyalty and the level of extent to which these people are willing to go to help me, help each other, it's like I can't even describe it. It's like money is not
It's like a
object.
church.
Yeah, money is not object. Time is not object. Sacrifices are not object. This guy is like part of the family now. He basically eats with us every day, and works with us every day. And when I go, I my second home is the nearest hardware store, because I fucking had to buy everything from scratch. From chainsaws to you name it. They know me by name now. That one of the ladies there is like helped me to like because I have to register all sorts of things for the kids and hospitals and stuff. So they're all really cool guys. They give me discounts now because they've said I've spent like a few $1,000 in the first month, So it's like, and
Nice. So
whenever we're
there's a
there,
local vibe
so
that you wouldn't get in a place like London, right? A
no,
level of
and
local community.
so my son has taken to making sure he rips the masks off anybody that like he gets picked up by. He just like, and I didn't teach him that. It's just instinctive, So he's pretty cool.
Is he tall enough to get away with it yet?
Oh, he's huge, but his little sister, we just measured her today. She's like over 10 kilos, and she's like 5 months old. And she's over the 100th percentile for height as well. So she's going to be tall.
So
So is
she'll be able
him.
to partake in the sacking of Rome when you're ready to mount it.
That's it, I mean, and she's so sweet, though. She's really, I'm not sure where she got the character from. There must be some long lost ancestor, because she's patient. She's always happy. She's awesome. The little Viking is just a terror.
Must take after her mother.
No.
I wouldn't know. It just didn't sound like you.
No, exactly. No, no, no. She doesn't take out there. She's too patient to I don't know. There's some like I said, long lost ancestor. But the funny thing
Yeah.
is, like I sent my dad pictures and so on, and he said, "Well, there's no need for a DNA test. Your son looks exactly like a carbon copy of what you were like at his age, and his sister
So
looks like a carbon copy of him, but girl format. So it's very
wow. Well,
very cool.
there can be only two after all.
Yeah, no, I'm really quite. My kids have got like great characters. I'm really happy with how they're turning out. But yeah, so no, it's been interesting, and
Well, the
the
rural life is.
people.
Did you have that when you were younger? Before you were living in London, did you
Yeah,
experience life in the country?
I did, yeah, because I grew up in. I was with my grandparents. Both sets of grandparents. The one set of grandparents that lived in the town used to take us off the weekend, and during the week would be the rural set of grandparents where we went to this little school. So I kind of know the ways of that sort of life, and then of course I grew up in Africa, which is even wilder than that. So yeah, but the cool thing is that everybody here is really been super helpful, super kind. I mean, when we arrived, if we'd delayed by like another 20 minutes on the first day we arrived, we would have never made it to the place, just because the place where it is, it's like down this little dirt road almost. And half an hour after we arrived, we were snowed in for like 3 days. We couldn't even leave. The cars wouldn't even be able to leave the parking spot. It was that bad. And
That's a sure sign you're home. I think
yeah,
I'm on a big 80-acre property in the rainforest, and we have a whole bunch of creeks between us and civilization, and ours is the last to flood, but it floods every year.
Yeah.
And we had an absolutely wonderful big flood just a couple of weeks ago, one of the biggest we've had in a long time. And, trapped at home for 5 days. It's just heavenly. It's my idea of heaven.
Yeah, it
I actually
wasn't.
want to, get dynamite onto that causeway and blow it up permanently, so we're forever trapped here.
It
But
wasn't
my
that
wife doesn't
heavenly
agree
for
yet.
us because the guy I bought the house from was, I don't know, I think he must be of Jewish and Scottish ancestry, because he literally cut the wires to take the fucking light fittings in every room. He took the sinks. He's anything
I hope
that
you got it
wasn't.
cheap.
He was really such a prick, and
Wow.
plus it was supposedly he was this ecological biofarming nonsense. He's left toxic waste everywhere, like fucking insulation just lying around, bits of plastic everywhere. He had these like sheds that were
So
like
it's a fixer-upper.
abusive sheds that were just like all over the place, just collapsed. We got rid of all that
Yeah.
crap, and so we had a massive amount of work. When we arrived, the electricity didn't work because he's left all the wires exposed. So when it snowed, as soon as you get a contact, it trips. So the
Wow.
next door neighbor with a 50-meter lead just said, I've got power, I've got 5 kilowatts here. I'll see you next week. If the power goes off, you can
Oh,
get into my place here and switch it on there. Another guy, these are people I've never met before, right? Another guy up the road, he's just our neighbor up the road. He was like, "Oh, how are you guys cooking?" I'm like, "Well, we've got one little hot plate, which the guy that came before us to try and thank God he was here because he managed to get some light bulbs in. He managed to get some stuff working, including the water pressure was, it's like a 300-meter water head, so." If the water valve was like this thing that was just hanging by a thread, and if you move it a little bit, it popped. So we had to replace that. It was just nothing was working. And he said, "No, but I've got a gas bottle. Just take the gas bottle. If you've got a little stove, you can cook." So that's how we've been going. And we didn't have a sink, so we had to do the stuff in the bathroom. Eventually, I got a sink, which I've just hooked up with like temporary stuff. Now I've ordered a kitchen,
all
which.
of that still sounds infinitely more appealing in London.
Oh yeah, no, it was great. Instead of sitting in front of a screen for 10 hours a day, it's like, yeah, it's fine. And
Yeah.
we still don't have a proper kitchen. We're gonna have a kitchen maybe in a month or so. There's a lot of, this guy. Maybe I can show you. This guy was a great, brilliant architect. Can you see the ceiling there? Can you see the little bit of the beams?
Yeah, I see a beam.
Right. That is sort of, when you're on the 10th run of a dysentery level diarrhea yellow, because you've just, everything has gone through you and now it's almost clear. That's the color he's painted 300-year-old beams in this room. In the rest of the house, they're gray and puke yellow, and it's just like, why would you paint a 300-year-old wooden beam?
Yeah.
Because
You're
this
gonna have to strip
house
those.
originally was from the 1700s. So it's
Wow.
like, so now I had a brilliant idea because, I saw a YouTube video. Some guy showed me a YouTube video. I thought that looks cool. So we bought a sandblaster, and I did a sandblasting in the little bathroom as a test run. Took a week to
Yep.
clean the fucking house after that. So sandblasting, not the way to go.
I had a very cartoonish image in my mind of the room just filling with sand around it.
Plus, because I've lived in England for so long, I'm all about health and safety. It was just like, yeah, I can do this.
I got to you.
By the end of that day, that's the only time in my life that I literally have got like dead time, which my wife says, "But you told me everything was mopped." I was like, "What the hell are you talking about? I didn't mop anything." And she's like, "Yeah, but you told me you did." I was like, "No, I didn't." She goes, "Yeah, you phoned me. You said, yeah, everything's mopped." I lost my fucking mind. I literally went to sleep because I had a headache. I couldn't think anymore. I think I breathed in so much of that crap that I wasn't feeling right. And then we obviously had to clean everything, because we've got kids and stuff. So clean up the next day. I scrubbed everything down like disinfectant level, hospital level 4 type stuff. But yeah, sandblasting, not the big. I returned that shit. So now we're
I don't think I'll try that one.
no, don't. It's the
But
sandblasting gate.
YouTube is a good source of inspiration. Lots of
Yeah,
well, at least it used to be. It's a little bit
yeah,
of a Jordan Peterson circle jerk now
it
on my
is.
feed, but
Yeah,
the it was YouTube that enabled me to build this place. This is my studio
Well,
library, and
your
it's a
place looks
freestanding.
awesome, and this house is
Thanks,
not
man. Yeah.
it's not huge, but the funnily enough, the color wood you got there is what I'm thinking about now. For we've got a pretty big lounge, which is going to have some books, but we're actually thinking about doing an extension on the second floor, because this where I'm at now is like a little bedroom. We're thinking of converting this to kind of a corridor and going out over the area that we've got, like about 30 square meters, and building like a library on one side and another bedroom on the other side, and possibly having the library have a section that's just got like clear glass, so I can use my telescope to see all the stars and stuff, because
Oh,
the stars
excellent.
here are amazing. There's no light pollution. You can literally see the Milky Way. The last time I saw the Milky Way was in the Kalahari Desert, 20 years ago or whatever.
Wow.
So,
That's awesome. So let it be known, the Kurgan will not live in a pod.
no.
Not going to happen.
No, but the cool thing is that and that's part of the reason why I moved to Italy, because Italy is like Italy. We got all these rules. It's a red zone. You can't get out your house. People still do what the fuck they want. So you just have to be a little bit clever about it. But everything is pretty much normal, except you got to pretend to wear the mask, but then you just put it behind your chin, and
It's a kind of similar vibe in the region that I live in. Not quite the Italian level of no shits given, but
yeah,
a lot of this region that I'm in is populated by, and pretty well established by, either like old farming families or boomer hippies,
yeah,
who wanted to get away from the big smoke 40
yeah,
years ago, and they've been
yeah,
so entrenched in the sort of natural lifestyle,
yeah,
that they don't buy it. Like I can go into a public restroom in this area and see like
yeah.
InfoWars scratched into the wall, and
Oh,
like
that's awesome. Yeah,
all of the COVID skepticism. It's probably one of the most COVID skeptical areas of our country. So I feel
that's
lucky in
good.
that sense. It's barely touched us, the
Yeah,
madness here.
yeah. No, the only thing that I'd say is different here is that people have got that they've managed to brainwash the average Italian into like, oh, you should wear a mask for out of respect for other people. Now, everyone, because we've had various tradesmen and people, postmen, whatever, a lot of deliveries coming. Everyone that comes here, I was like, dude, you don't have to wear a mask here. Just ignore that shit. I don't care.
Mm,
And it's like a
mm.
couple of them have been like shy for at the beginning, because they're like, oh, well. And then after a while, that once they've come the second time or whatever, they're like, yeah, I just fucking bother. And there's a few of them that just
Yeah,
turn up without, because they kind of figured out how I am, sort of thing. So
yeah, yeah. I've
it's
been the
good.
same. In one of the buildings that I frequent has a lift that goes up a couple of levels, and it's got the sign out the front that says, in order to uphold
Yeah,
COVID safety standards, this lift can accommodate 2 people now.
yeah,
And it's just, oh, for fuck's sake, it's going
yeah,
to take all day for people to get where they're going. So every time I'm in,
exactly.
I'm just like, get in. We're not afraid of signs. Just get in.
Yeah,
It's just a
yeah,
piece of
good.
paper.
Uh,
And actually, I haven't had anyone um, refuse the offer. They've all been like,
yeah,
oh, okay, because everyone's anticipating
yeah,
other people freaking out at
exactly.
them.
See, that's the thing. That's the
And
like.
if you show them you're not going to be one of
I
those
had a really good
Karens, then they're cool with it.
I had a really good conversation with an official here that was talking exactly that. He says, the psychological impact is disgusting. It's just wrong, and it's making people afraid to talk to people, to even just say anything
Mm,
to each other, because they'll think, oh, the other guy will think I'm trying to kill him. And it's like, well, fuck it, I'm blatant with that shit. I don't care. But
yeah.
enough of the COVID stuff. I was thinking, tell me a little bit, because I know I I don't know actually. That's what I'm going to ask. But I think that you have, I don't know if toned down, or I couldn't find a lot of your YouTube stuff.
Oh
Now,
yeah, yeah. So, well, Jan 6 happened, and that was the last. That was the last live stream I did before this, actually. So you're the second of the year, and when all that nightmare went down in DC, and the reaction to it, including my own, I was really ropeably angry on
yeah,
January 6th, with just the whole of it. Everything. It
yeah,
was awful, and I just decided to take a big step back, because I thought, right, well, this seems to have been the last chance for Trump to step up. He didn't cross the Rubicon.
No, he didn't.
And
I don't. But
and we
there's
need
a.
to.
To be fair to him, I gotta say something.
In that moment, he didn't.
No, but to be fair to him, I gotta
who
say something,
knows?
because even Vox and people that were like staunch supporters have sort of said, "Oh, Trump was a disappointment." I don't think anyone realizes the level of deep state swamp that guy had to deal with.
I'm aware, and I don't put it all on his shoulders. But
No.
what it became clear to me that there's going to be a period where, at least ostensibly, we are on the defensive.
Yeah.
Where America and the empire is ruled by vampires, and I
See,
don't accept the Biden presidency. I don't recognize him as president.
I don't think anybody
But
does.
I have much. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I have much less faith in the system itself now. I thought Trump might be a way to use the system to get us to kind of save parts of Western civilization. Now I just kind of want the thing to burn down so we can get building again.
Yeah, you see, I've got a different
in terms of
take.
the YouTube, well, just to answer your question on the YouTube briefly, what I did was I made all the videos private for a few weeks, and just took some time away from the world and just focused on family life. Set up some things here for myself with a more local emphasis, less online, and then I brought back some of the Patriarch Hour content. And then just yesterday, I've actually made most of the videos public again, because I'm transitioning them over to Odyssey, and I'm going to gradually shut down the YouTube channel altogether, because there's just no point trying to push that rock up the hill anymore. And I'm going to start a new YouTube channel. Try to start with a clean slate and have a more strategic approach, because I've just been shooting my mouth off for 4 years, just openly sharing my opinions, and I've been wrong about some things, and I might have said some silly things, but it's not that I regret anything I've said. I still insist upon exercising my right to be wrong, and
No,
my
but
right
yeah,
to
you see,
share
but
my stupid opinions.
I think that's
But
fine. Yeah.
I won't get an audience on YouTube if I do that. They'll block me off, and they have been shadow banning me for such a long time that it's just become a pointless venture. So I'll be starting a new channel soon with some more strategic content, and all of the previous JFH show material will be on Odyssey soon. I'm not gone. I've just been having a holiday, and it's been really good. Actually, it's been really good for my mental health.
The thing about being wrong or changing your mind over time, that just means you're a human being that evolves. I mean, I'm not the same person I was 20 years ago, or even just 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago. It's like, if you're not evolving, you're stagnating. So that's fine.
People don't understand that. They think you have to be in this binary box and stick your flag of allegiance on one hill and stick with it for life. But I stand by everything I've ever said, even the things that I would now tell you, oh yeah, I was wrong.
Yeah,
I was completely wrong about that,
well,
but I still stand by. I believed it at the time.
Exactly. It's not like that's what I always said as well. It's like, look, giant fuck ups, everybody makes them, and I've made more than most, but they were honest fuck ups. I wasn't being deceptive. Right. I wasn't deceiving myself. I was just wrong. It's happened.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And people don't understand even what truth is anymore. That's what I'm starting to see, is the zombie masses have been activated. Like this psyop that's been running for decades now. They've flipped the switch with this COVID stuff.
But you see, I think
seeing now there are people who are incapable of rational thought.
Oh,
and they're just going along.
That's the majority. The majority is completely incapable of rational thought. But Aristotle said that over 2,000 years ago. The thing is, I've got a different take from what you were saying. Like it sounds like you took a bit of a psychological beating by the Trump thing. See, I was saying
I put too much faith in Trump.
Yeah, no, I was, to be honest, I was convinced that Trump would win in a landslide, which he did. Effectively, he did.
He did.
They just fucking.
Ever.
And I didn't expect, I was expecting huge fraud, but I didn't expect it to be that blatant to that level, and it going through. It's like, what the fuck? But
and it's seeming that most people are going along with it. But
well, that's the thing. No, see, there we think different, because on the 20th or 21st or whatever it was that the Biden won kind of thing happened. At that moment, I thought, oh, this is bad news because, and I said this to people I worked with, I said this in the family, friends. I said, you see, the problem is everybody is saying, oh, Trump's going to do this, Trump's going to do that, Trump is one man. For Trump to do anything, he needs to have men that are willing to kill people to act. And sorry, Americans, but your whole country lost its balls long, long ago, around the time when you got rid of England. And the average
America got
American,
circumcised, we might say.
the average American, even soldier, is the kind of guy that would like bluster and talk a lot, and oh well, we might have to shoot somebody. Well, no, that's just kind of yeah, well, and it just fizzles out. It's all big talk, nothing happens. And I said, look, if that was the level of swamp they had, or even while the whole, because they had the voting, whatever was on the 3rd of November, and then it was till the 20th of January to figure it out. And I was saying then, like, Trump is screwed because unless he takes the Putin approach, where people start to drop dead, he literally starts to take out guys that are in the deep state that are just, completely sick, evil fucks. He's not going to win. Who's backing him
Caesar
up?
has to be prepared to do the things that normal men
exactly. Once the Supreme Court refuses to even hear the case, where are you going to go? The next step after the Supreme Court is the military, and the military doesn't have the balls to do it. That nothing's going to happen. And I said, America will never go to war openly with itself like that. The generals don't have the balls to sort of say, yeah, you know what? This guy's a fucking Chinese plant who's been bought and paid for, and now China is running the States. And you know why they don't? Because they've been run by Israel for the last 50 years anyways, at least, if not more. So
I want to know your take on this, G, is it, if they don't have the balls to fight for, the idea of America and the freedoms that they've enjoyed, will they be so gutless as to follow orders into killing their own people or hurting their own people? The military, that is. Will they become like the Bolsheviks?
I was discussing this today. I don't think anyone in America has got the stomach for that sort of thing. So what will happen, in my opinion, there will be, pockets of firefights. There will be pockets of violence. There will be some bad areas. There will be some towns that will probably be very, very bad. But my take on it is it's going to gently degenerate into kind of like an unworkable mess. And what will happen is you're going to have, I can't remember who it is, somebody that said, oh, we're not going to be part of this state anymore. We now consider ourselves part of South Dakota. And lines are going to be redrawn on a map with some level of, skirmishes.
I don't identify with the old geography anymore.
That's right, yeah. And it's going to be like, I'm not in Minnesota and I'm a Montanan, or something. I don't know.
The average person out there doesn't even understand that this can happen, and I'm astonished when I get into these conversations with people. It's like, you think Australia is not going to break into smaller countries one day? It will, of course it will. It has to. It always does.
Dude, if I have anything to do with it, Venice is coming back. So,
Yeah. I've got a map up on my wall here that was made by a company that my granddad worked for after he retired from the army, and it's a world map from the early 1980s, and it's the United Soviet Socialist Republics. There's this big white blob right at the top there. I've got a huge collection of atlases here from different eras because I'm interested in seeing how the lines on the maps have changed over time, because that tells a very important part of the story.
It changes.
And people are still deluding themselves that America is going to be 50 United States for indefinite future. We're going to see it break up in our lifetime.
I think, like you said, atlases go out of they're not up to date very quickly. So it's not. But again, like my take on all of this, because obviously with my wife we discussed this stuff before we moved and worried about this vaccine passports. The UK has gone totally fucking clown world. But and she was saying, oh, but what if Trump? I was like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if Trump wins. It doesn't matter if Biden wins. It doesn't matter. Look around you. The world is full clown world level. So what you got to do is in meat space, not online, not in digital space, you got to create a little community of complete fucking zealots just like you that are willing to, hold the line when and if it comes to that level. Because if you're living in a little village that doesn't have any specific, natural resources or whatever that you want to, that are really important, who's going to send a whole army just to take out the little, and if an army comes and you've got 20 people that are willing to shoot back, that army's not got a problem. And if it's in a hamlet of like a couple of thousand people, and like that army's now got a problem trying to take that hamlet, that's not going to look good for them. They're just going to go around it. They're going to say, well, we'll come back to it once we've pacified the rest of the country or whatever. It's just not going to be worth
it. You're definitely not wise to live in any strategically important cities, I think, right now. I don't understand why anyone would want to live in a city at all right now. And I recently had a close friend of mine willingly move to a city, and it's just like, are you mad, bro? And he's aware of what's going on in the world, but we all have different perceptions, I guess, and different hierarchies of priorities. But I think just live in a strategically unimportant area with as much space around you as possible and good neighbors, and invest. I've been saying this for years now to people. The most important thing you can do is invest in and build upon the relationships with your immediate neighbors. Know everyone who shares a fence line with you. Be there for them and ask them favors now and then, and build that connection, even if they're not zealots, even if they're not Christians.
Well,
if they're decent people on a basic level, just be there for them.
That's that happened here
you can count on them.
That happened here by necessity. I wasn't even, Plus, I do have a small army of zealots.
What a great start, though! Like, what an awesome start that your neighbor gives you electricity for a week.
No, also,
what a fantastic
not just that.
beginning.
The guy's, since then he came to give me his own olive oil that he makes. He gave us like tomato, I don't know what you call it, like pressed out tomato paste that we use in cooking and stuff. He's given us. He brought like he lost 3 kids actually. Like one of them was born alive, and 2 were like miscarriages. And he brought us like a cot, a cot for like baby. I'm like, dude, I've got 2 of them. I don't really. And he's like, I don't care. I'm not doing anything with it. I'm in my 70s. If you don't need it, burn it. I didn't have the heart to tell him, look, I got that. It's just another fucking pile of shit cluttering my rooms up. But he's awesome. And he's one of the guys that some of the other neighbors don't like because he's so crude, raw, rough. And I'm like, no, that guy I like the best of all because he's so direct. He doesn't, if he comes through his head, it's out of his mouth. He's not like holding himself really good neighbors. And there is still, even though, a funny thing, like on this land, there's a parcel of land that is sort of invading into my territory, let's say, that is owned by the Novus Ordo Church. And I didn't know exactly where the delineation is, because in Italy, you think that you've got like little pickets that tell you, no, fuck all. It's like some old man says, it's between that tree and that rock, and if that old man dies, nobody knows, and then you have to go and find out, So this guy knows everything because he's been here for like 50 years, he knows. So I said, look, where is this thing? So he's walking around and he's showing me exactly where the fence is and, where the fence used to be, because there is no fence. He said, oh, if you put it here. And I said, but look, do you think if I go and speak to the church guys that they'll sell it to me, or how much do you think? And he says, those guys, you offer them enough money, they'll sell you the tabernacle. But now, he said that without hesitation, but at the same time, when he's talking, like with you as a friend, he says, no, look, but we have to be good Christians, So there is an underlying current of Christian culture that is deep, that runs very deep here. But despite the fact that Novus Orcos have taken over, and despite the fact that these guys might not even go to church or whatever, but they have an intrinsic sort of understanding of that sort of stuff, which is really quite good.
It's who we are as Europeans, and I guess it's a different flavor and by different degree from place to place. And I certainly, see it more in the country here in Australia than we see it in the cities. But yeah, it's like people have been programmed to think we live in a secular world, but this civilization was built by Christianity. It is a Christian civilization, and all of our axiomatic presumptions about, life and how to treat each other and even how to discover truth. Science itself is a Christian process, but people have just been conned into thinking it's the opposite, and that's why it's going to crumble.
Well, nothing to add to that. I agree with you 100%. I'm going to ask you to tell me a little bit more about your plans, maybe, while I quickly ban this cretin that I've just seen in the comments.
Oh, you got to break out the flamethrower.
Oh, yeah. He's
well, yeah, so we're still going with Champions of the Light. That's been continuous and slowly, continually developing. For your viewers who are interested, that's our intolerant, exclusive Christian social network online. What I've been saying to people in our networks is that it's, it is to Facebook, or it's working to be to Facebook what Social Galactic is to Twitter, just in terms of function. It's got a more similar functionality to Facebook. But it's not converged. The only advertising is internal, just our products and books and shirts and things that we make. And it's primarily focused on creating a space for civil discourse and brotherly, sisterly Christian love. Mostly brotherly. There's only about 17% women there, but that's how it tends to go, I think, with the kind of stuff that we like to talk about. And for so many of the women folk, but we welcome those who are there. And it's a great little community. So I've just been keeping that going while I've paused on the other things, and I've jumped back in the writing saddle this year. I spent most of last year focused on recording Logos Rising, which was my gospel album. And that's finished. The CDs are about to arrive. It came out brilliantly. I'm really, really, really pleased with it, and it's my first musical effort for the Lord. But now I'm back into the writing, so I've got this third book in my science fiction trilogy to finish off. I left my heroes stagnating in Russia for about 9 months.
Well, that's okay. I've got a third book in my series that's been stagnating for about 6 years, I think.
Oh, well, I feel better now.
Yeah.
But they're on the move again. I've been really writing a lot in the last couple of weeks, and I reread the second book with my wife, and just got clearer on all the bits and pieces that I need to bring together. It's quite a complex storyline with a lot of threads.
I know the feeling.
I'm spurgy enough. I'm spurgy enough that I need all those threads to be tied up properly.
Yep, I know that feeling well enough. Let me just see, there's a couple of comments. So let's see. Oh, eScorpio. I don't know if you know who eScorpio is. He's the chief gamma in chief of the Reddit Gamma Secret Kings, I think.
The Secret Kings are here.
Yeah,
hello,
I did like a 3-day AMA with them. And I gotta say, eScorpio.
I saw that. I didn't watch it, but I saw the thumbnail of it. How was that? What were they like as actual people?
It was all right. The thing is, eScorpio has actually kept his word 100%. Everything that he promised would happen happened. I got no issue.
Gamma.
Yeah, no, I've got no issue with him. There's a couple of guys that are clearly quite bitter. There's a gay guy on there. I forget I don't know what his handle was. I can't remember, but he basically tried to reply to everything, and he was trying. You can just see he's like upset about something. I don't know. And there's a couple of them like that. Some really vicious one, but one of the ones that was just like flat out lying about me, like saying, "Oh, this guy's a grifter." I'm like, "What am I selling?" I've never.
Grifter's the favorite word, isn't it?
Yeah, but I've never pumped anything.
Sort of generic takedown.
To be fair, eScorpio banned her because he was like, no. We agreed that the shit wouldn't happen, so he banned her.
Thanks, Scorpio. eScorpio.
So, and he's got a comment here. Actually, says, "I will try to say hello to Jimmy after I finish cooking chicken Alfredo. He really loathes us." Okay.
Does he mean me?
Yeah.
Is he saying I loathe them? I don't loathe them. Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, I didn't think you're not the kind of loathing type. Yeah.
No. Yeah. I'm not a loather.
So Willie Ram is here. Oh, eScorpio says it. I think he's referring to when we're talking about the great architect, and he says sounds like a Mexican paint job. That's quite funny because I think he's of certainly Mexican origin himself, so that's quite hilarious.
It's good to have a sense of humor about your own kin.
Yeah, and then there was that Benjamin Shanebaum that I banned because he's just, I don't know, he's going on about how many push-ups lately. They're hanging a bit your tits, yeah. Nah, I don't have tits. I've actually got pecs. That's fine. Yeah, you guys are so smart. You alt-right fags or something else. Yeah, that's why I got banned. He's just there to talk shit.
Just a troll, yeah.
LS16 says East Dakota will rise.
Oh, here are the comments.
And Elizabeth.
Oh, Mandy Joan is here.
Yeah.
Hey, Mandy, how are you, sister?
Yeah.
She's one of our champions of the light, and
Yeah.
she's a good Catholic girl.
Yeah, I know. She's getting married. I think she invited me to her wedding. So I said, yeah, sure. If it's doable, why not?
Yeah. Streaming? Or happening
Elizabeth
in North Italy?
M says, how old is this teenager? I don't know. He's one of
Who,
your
me?
countrymen. Yeah, I don't know. I guess
I'll take that. I'll take that in the highest compliment.
Yeah, so do I. And E Scorpio says he's one of your countrymen, country boy, and it says LOL, country boy. I guess I don't know. They're laughing at your youthful looks.
Oh well, they can laugh. Go ahead, guys. Is that the best you got?
Yeah, and Wooly Ram says that the Noble Sword has been in Italy for what, half a century, and real Catholicism has been there for millennia. Yeah. Simon the amputee. Simon's actually going to be interviewed tomorrow, because I'm doing a couple of interviews just because I've got on Saturday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm having an interview with Professor Rachel Fulton Brown, which is probably going to explode a lot of Protestant heads, because
I'm looking forward to that. I really like what she does. And
yeah,
I hope you
she
do
is
too.
awesome.
And she's maybe I'll just have to wait and see, but I don't really know where she stands on the Novus Orco stuff.
Well, that's kind of a no-go area, because I asked her about the whole Sedevacanthus thing, and she's like, I'm not qualified to comment on that, so I'm going to stay out of that one. But
appreciate the humility there, especially from an academic.
Yeah, and but the stuff she is qualified on, which is the medieval approach to the medieval history of Catholicism, of Christianity, she is, I think, second to none on that. If you've listened to her series on Authorized, it's brilliant.
Some of it, yeah.
Really very good.
I listened at the start. I haven't been a subscriber for a little while now, but yeah, I enjoyed the first few episodes of it.
I've listened to every one of those, and quite a few of the Tolkien ones as well, because there's a lot of background info in there that she's aware of that most people haven't got a clue.
And I would guess, I mean, I'm a Luddite on Catholic history, really, but I would guess that that the medieval approach to Catholicism is what you're about more than the modern approach to
very
quote
much
unquote Catholicism.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Not to I don't want to get into any gossip, but just the concepts. It was interesting in the recent exchange that was happening on Social Galactic about your definition of Catholicism being treated as a special definition. And I sat there and thought about that for a while. It's like, well, I can understand how in ignorance most people would think that
there's been a whole side conversation that happened after that was sort of like, oh, not really. There's been a whole behind the scenes thing of like, we're not really fighting. So
I love a good argument, and I never assume that any of it's getting personal or nasty. But just the idea, it made me pause for thought that that you were being accused of applying a special definition to Catholicism, whereas if and I've had a couple of long conversations with you about this, and I like to be able to try to view things from multiple perspectives at once. And if you're correct in your assertions that lead you to sedepravationism, then they have the special definition of Catholicism, not you. Yours is consistent with all of church history, if you're correct.
Very much so.
If people don't know that about you now, and that's the view you take, then they're creating a special category.
Exactly. And there's two approaches to that. One is if you're in Social Galactic and you don't know my approach to Catholicism, you're either lying, haven't been paying attention, new, or just really dumb. So there is no getting away from that. I have held that position before I was even baptized. Video number 1 on my stream, that's what it was about. Video number 2 that's what it's about. Video number 3, So it's like,
yeah.
I've been
And the
very
people involved in
consistent
that
with that.
conversation know. They know
Yeah,
who you are. They know
exactly.
what you're about.
And secondly, the other thing is, doesn't matter what I say. Do the research. Just look for yourself. Look for yourself and explain to me, by the way, if I'm wrong, why there hasn't been a single refutation of my position in writing anywhere on the planet. There isn't one. And it's not just my position, it's the position of all sedeprivationists. There is no valid refutation. The refutations that they keep saying, they're throwing, oh, you guys are heretics. All those refutations have been completely done to death, like by anyone who knows anything. There is no response to it. And the reason there is no response to it is because, again, if you look at the actual rules of Catholicism, they're in black and white. You can't avoid it. And it's Roman law. So it's not like, UK or American law where it's like, but on this loophole, no. That is the principle. It's in black and white. It's done. It's written there. Now, the exceptions to the principle are also documented because over 2 millennia, you think there haven't been some exceptions? Of course there have been. Which is like for example, no women priests. But Joan of Arc is a saint, and she led the troops of France, and she was like a 14-year-old peasant girl that couldn't read. So, of course, there's exceptions because God allows for all sorts of things, and the church understands that. But it's like for you to try and say that Novus Ordo are Catholics is absolutely ridiculous. Now, I accept that a lot
I'm
of...
starting to think maybe Novus Ordo are just another branch of Protestantism,
They
and
are.
Protestantism is progressivism. Really, it's sort of the foundation of
But
progressivism.
that's not even wrong. The Vatican II was absolutely done on Protestant lines. There were Protestant observers, and there were Protestant people that like added stuff in. There were Jews that decided what was going to go into Vatican II. There were Protestants, and there were Orthodox that all like added in their bullshit to like, oh well, yeah, we're going to change it. And plus people like Anne Barnhart, like, I don't know, I wish I could like have a conversation with that woman. She's turned it down, she's ignored emails I've sent her and whatever, although she didn't ignore at first.
She's not keen on being beheaded.
No. She's a smart lady and she does quite a lot of good work, but her continual obsession that like, no, Ratzinger's the only real pope. And her statement is she's now going to the 1983 fake canon law and quoting canon law as to why it is like that. Well, wait a minute. If you're going to start quoting canon law, start from 1917, which is when it was all put together, and then tell me how that one doesn't work. Because if you start to look at canon law, you have to start there. And if you start there, well, all those popes are complete heretics. And her statement for why Ratzinger is pope is because Bergoglio was never validly elected. Well, guess what? Neither was Roncalli in 1958. And that's been absolutely demonstrated beyond a shadow of a doubt now, because the FBI has released Freedom of Information files where they knew what was going on in there, and that actually said what was going on in there. Plus, he was a Freemason, so he's disqualified multiple reasons. And plus, he created the Vatican II stuff, which is heretic, and he approved some of those documents before he died, which were heretic. So there's three different, you can't tell me that Bergoglio is not Pope because canon law says so. Well, neither were all the other guys before him, from 1958 on. So what's the difference? Also, if Ratzinger dies...
I'm certain that Bergoglio is not the Pope, and
Yep.
I'm not Catholic myself, but I look at it from the
Not
outside.
yet, not yet,
for me,
James.
praying for me, brother. The foundation of my faith really comes from the idea that you shall know the tree by its fruit. That was what unraveled my atheism, and it actually happened in this room, looking at this wall right here, because I was lining this wall with the timber that's on there now with my dear friend who's a Christian, and I wasn't at the time, and we were having this long debate, while we were building together, which was great fun. And he struck me with that line towards the end of the conversation of scripture. And it really kind of haunted me, and it began to unravel my atheism. And then when I look at the fruits of the Vatican, and we see a so-called pope who's releasing encyclicals that barely mention Jesus Christ, and are all about globalism and all about embracing other religions, that ain't it. I know that ain't it. So either the whole thing is bunk, or at some point, the Vatican and what we call the Catholic Church became something that it wasn't previously.
Exactly.
And so your narrative is far more compelling and reasonable to me than any of the lukewarm Catholics today who just go along with it, when we see that it's a dying faith, this kind of modern Catholicism. And I said it's a Protestant branch. It's progressive. In Protestantism, we've got this phenomenon where women, it's very clear in the Bible, and Protestantism is supposedly all about the Bible as the final authority. Sola scriptura. If it's in the Bible, that's the truth. Okay. Well, the Bible says no women. The Bible says women cannot be priests or lead the church or take any position of leadership over men. But that was before the 20th century. In the 20th century and beyond, women can do that now. That's what most
it's the New Testament, by Pastor Jim Bob on the avenue of like, Texasville or whatever. But it's even more ridiculous than that, because
very, very confused bunch of people out there.
Again, the other thing is like non-Trinitarians are like the best. Well, it's actually in the Bible again. I can't remember if it's John 5:7, something like that, where it says, the God the Father, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, these three are one. So you're saying the Trinity is not in the Bible. Well, have you ever read it? It's like Protestants just don't read the Bible. So I don't think they know to read, honestly. The stuff that they come up with is just so obviously wrong. I don't know. I think it's
but there's a lot to choose from. It's like a supermarket of faith, even within Christianity. You just pick your flavor, pick what suits your lifestyle. You want to be a gay Christian? Go join the gay Christian church. You want to be a led by women Christian? Go join the led by women church. You want to be?
The funny thing is, I've got this Catholic friend who says, like, how do those guys even know which one is the church? I can't even find something good on Netflix, and it doesn't have 40,000 programs. It's like,
that's it. That's it. And it's why it's what led me to look into the ancient church. And it's why traditional Catholicism and Orthodoxy have been so compelling to me. But I'm a bad Christian. I'm a sinner, and I'm not as diligent in my research as you are. And I get so busy doing other things, so I still kind of sit on that non-denominational
I'm not that diligent.
threshold.
I've got like this like my most loyal henchman, and I won't mention much else about, because he prefers to remain relatively anonymous. But
as a good useful henchman does. Nobody knows
who he is. No, but this guy's definitely not an NPC. He might have been an NPC when he started out. He's definitely a player character now. he's leveled up a lot. But he reads. He's a lot younger than I am. Roughly speaking, about maybe, I don't know, half my age or something like that. But extremely well read on Catholicism and books on Catholicism, and he's not autistic or doesn't have that kind of a thing. He's got, like everybody, he's got his little things that he prefers to do a certain way or whatever, but he really is quite patient. At his age, there's no way I would have read the tomes that he's read, and really quite knowledgeable about church history and so on, to the point where we can have a great theological discussion while we prune trees or whatever. And I learned stuff from him in terms of like the history of the church and what's happened. And I've got a very synergistic approach in that I figure out which one are the key points, and then I put it together and like, okay, well then that must mean X, and then I check, and yep, it does mean X. That's pretty much how I go along. But it doesn't mean that I know all the little details in between. Well, he really takes a very clear sort of approach. And at his age, being that clearly educated in that stuff, I'm going to start doing, we've got a catechism of Carlo Dragone, which is in Italian, which is a brilliant catechism. Whenever I pick up that book, I open it at any page and I start reading, and after one page I'm like, why don't I read this every day? It's like, it's a brilliant catechism. And should start talking about that in our own little community. The other guy, this IT guy, that he had a sort of a little half of a live stream where he like didn't show his face, but he's like gone to ends of the earth. He's the kind of, I don't know if you ever watched the show The Punisher, but like the Punisher is the guy who like shoots everybody and whatever. And then there's this guy in a van who's like a geek.
Okay, yeah, it's like the name.
Yeah, and the geek guy, like, he's the guy that downloads the plans while you're like in the building, that sort of, movie stuff.
Got to have one.
This IT guy is like that. He's sort of like, oh, no, this is what we do it, and this is how you figure it out, and this is how you can bypass all your ISPs and do your own like internet service. And I'm like, okay, dude. When then he tries to explain it to me, and I'm just like, don't waste your time, dude. I'm not going to listen to any of that. Just get it done. I trust you. Whatever. And it's a great little community. There's a couple of families that are trying to move here. One of which is this another young guy who has been having like an email debate with a Novus Ordo priest, and he has a patience and a diplomacy, being English. He's got a very polite way of cornering this priest, and he sends me copies of the emails, and he's just relentless, and he just puts him in the corner and slowly paints him in and says, but you said this, and now I'm going to check, and here's like what Ludwig Ott said, and here's what the canon law says, and he just like drills down to the nth degree.
Yep.
And he's
that's good.
The Novus Ordo priests have got no response for that. I mean, like, they've got no response to my book. Never mind a guy that like takes elements of my book and then digs down. It's like, I mean, my book is a dig down for most humans. It's more of a dig down than they'll ever do. And this guy takes like two pages of my book and then like builds a whole church around it, sort of thing. And like, yep, let's prove the point. Now we're gonna go to the next one. And it's like, you know what? You just did all that work just on one thing, and now you're going to go to the next one, and there's like 50 of them. It's
now, while it's fun, exploring and debating and arguing for these ideas, I don't think that ultimately it's reason and evidence that's going to fix the church or restore Christendom.
You say that, but this guy that I'm talking about, he became a Catholic and a sedeprivationist out of pure raw logic. He is kind of autistic.
Oh, it will for some. Like individually, there are always going to be Spurgs and high IQ people and diligent researchers who come to it through that path. But I think on the whole, what we see is a billion people who are just going along with what the authorities tell them. And how did the authorities get where they are? Through cunning, through deceit, through violence, through secret rituals, through all kinds of dark deeds. And I think it's going to take some dark deeds in a sense for the light.
You see, I think differently to that. I think that truth always will out. So you need people like that guy. You need, people like me are like walking a very thin edge between very dark and somewhat light. But that's because I throw tactical nukes. It's like I'm not really interested in the light details. Like, this is the truth, boom. And it's like you can't avoid like the critiquing of my return, reclaiming the Catholic Church that I've had has been like, oh, he misspelled the word here or whatever, And it's like, yeah, well, that gets caught up in the next revision, dude. The sentence structure here was painful to follow. Well, not my problem if you can't read a long sentence because you lose your place, fucking use your finger to track it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not meant to be entertaining reading, but I find you an entertaining writer, nonetheless. I haven't read Reclaiming, but I've read Believe, and it's a gripping yarn. It's a good talk.
Well, Reclaiming the Catholic Church, I've had one guy, I think he's done a review as well. He's got a video channel. But he basically said, oh, I read Believe, and that was like a punch in the face. It was cool. Now I'm reading Reclaiming the Catholic Church, and this is like Believe on steroids. So it's like some people found it, the style is the same. It's just
just a
slightly
beating
more.
that never ends.
It's a slightly more polite version in reclaiming the Catholic Church, just because the subject matter is more in depth and detailed. But it's the same.
I've been corrected here in the comments by LS16 Heinz G, and he or she is absolutely right, saying not dark deeds, firelit deeds, bright as noon in July. Well, that's
That's
what I
it.
mean, That's what I
Yeah,
mean by
yeah.
dark deeds. But you're right; they are very light. That's the light.
That's what I said in Believe, right? Sometimes spreading the light means setting fire to a few villages of the enemy.
Yeah,
That's
and I guess that's what I'm getting at here, is that power is the game at the moment, and we're seeing all the chess pieces move around the board in the world. Everyone's vying for power, and at some stage, Christendom came into being by the sword, by conquest
you
over
see. Wait.
pagans.
No, I disagree. Because
Partly,
first,
not entirely by the
no,
sword,
but
but
if
the
you look
sword was
at
definitely involved.
what actually spread Christianity, Catholicism to begin with, was martyrs. And that was, I mean, they were literally being fed to lions and burnt on crosses to light the streets of Rome. So they weren't exactly fighting much. And it's through that martyrdom that they eventually took over.
But that's still the sword. They're the victims of the sword.
Right.
But it's
Yeah, now
through
when we're talking swords, I don't want to be on the
demonstration.
victim end. Fuck that.
No.
No.
Yeah.
For me,
Plenty of
by the
Christians who
sword
aren't
means
though.
I'm using the sword, not the other way around.
Yeah, well, that's certainly preferable, I'd say. But yeah, either way, there's a power play involved always in Christianity, and we're living in a fallen world ruled by the usurper, and wherever Christ's name is mentioned, demons start to dance and squirm and freak out and turn to violence. And so there's always going to be a power play involved around the church. And so the question is the church willing to partake of that power play to bring truth, goodness, and beauty back
I think
into the
without a
world?
doubt, I mean, certainly all the Sede priests I know, these guys they don't give a crap about what the rules are supposed to be, what the COVID stuff is. They carry on doing their job as priests, and they're to a man. All the ones I've met, all the ones I've spoken to, they are like complete war priests. There is no bending with these guys. At the same time,
their power comes from above.
They're the most kind, generous with their time. They're really, really awesome men, but tough as nails. I mean, these are guys who I have the highest respect for them, because I can tell just from the way they do stuff. Like one guy came to baptize our kids and do a mass in our place in London when it was under lockdown. He didn't give a shit. He did it, and he did whatever he had to do to be able to get himself there to do that. And it's like, those are real priests. And the thing that I have the highest respect for them is these guys, they charge into battle in terms of what I consider armed, completely unarmed. They're armed spiritually far superior to me. But in the physical world, they got nothing. I'm thinking, man, if I'm going to go into battle, I want a shitload of guns and a lot of ammo, because it's battle, right? They've got a completely different
maybe that's
take
just a
on
sign of, I feel you on that, and maybe that's just a sign of our weaker faith, but
I think
who knows? Time will tell.
I don't necessarily think it's a weaker faith. I think it's there's always been two branches of the Catholic Church: the spiritual branch, which is led by the clerics, and the physical branch, which is led by emperors, kings, knights, people who fight. Now, the people who fight are always supposed to be subject to the spiritual branch. I have discussed this with the priest, by the way, and he says, yeah, that's exactly how it should be. Now, what happens is that sometimes, what should happen is, if the cleric class starts to, deviate and become perverts, thieves, and all that, the physical arm is supposed to grab them and put them back. There have been cases of emperors punching popes, in taking over the Vatican and getting in there and shoving them in jail, throwing them out, having them killed, whatever, and vice versa, right? So it's kind of a balancing act, because yes, the clerics are supposed to be the leaders, but the minute a cleric breaks canon law, even a child can call him out. That is a Catholic duty. If you're Catholic and your priest is screwing up, is not following the rules, it is your duty to point that out. People going on about, oh, the Catholic Church is full of pedophiles. No, the Novos Ordo Church is completely full of pedophiles because they're all gay Satanists, Freemasons. So that's what they did. They packed it with these guys. And there are books like Belladonna that they described how this happened. But let me go back.
That the biggest trick of Satan is to change the meaning of words and to invert their meaning. So, coming back to where we started on the Catholic thing today, what people call Catholicism is an inversion.
Yeah.
But what you call Catholicism is tradition.
If you go back 100 years, was there never a single pedophile Catholic priest? Yes, there was. And you know what happened when there was an actual priest of the Catholic Church that was an actual pedophile? The men of that town took that priest to some swampy marshland, gave him 5 minutes to say his paternoster, and hung him from a tree. And there are cases, recorded cases of this happening even in the States, where they killed the priest, and then the sheriff came up and said, hey, what happened to the priest? And the men of that town faced the sheriff and his 2 deputies or whatever and said, we're the guys that killed him. This is why. This is what he did, and that's the boy he raped. What are you going to do about it? At which point the sheriff was like, no crime was committed here. I'm just going to go back home.
Well, this is it. And fast forward to today, if that very same thing were to happen, if the men of the church were to deal with a pedophile priest in that way, what would the world say of it? They would say that the men of the church committed a hate crime against a man for his sexual preference.
Yep.
That's the world we live in. So you'll know the tree by its fruit.
But again,
it's bitter fruit today.
If you had 100 men that were complete zealots, right, living in a place somewhere, and there is a priest like that, and they kill his ass, and then they send somebody to arrest these men, who are they going to send? They have to send the fucking army. Because either you kill 100 men, men, or you let it go. That's what I mean. That's all it takes. 100 guys in one place. In England,
100 men on their own native soil, with guerrilla tactics is a formidable army if they know what they're doing.
Plus, if
traditional army may not be able to take 100 men.
I'm not even talking about armed guys or anything. I'm just talking about 100 men that are willing to stand there and say, before I let you arrest the guy next to me for killing a pedo priest, you gotta kill me. I don't have a weapon, I don't have a gun, I don't care. But this is my buddy, I'm linking arms with him, and you're gonna have to come here and shoot us all, or you have to physically remove him from us by force, and we're gonna fight back until you've either killed us all or you let us go. Where on the planet?
We saw this in the last week. That Polish priest in Canada.
That was one guy.
He sent back 7 or 8 police officers running with their tails between their legs because he would not stand down, and he had the courage of Christ in his heart.
And that was just one guy. That was just one priest.
Get off my property.
Says, I don't care what you got to say.
Asserted his sovereignty.
And when they were tail between the legs, and don't come back without a warrant, because he's absolutely right. People's like, oh, he's a cop. I'm like, I don't care if you're a cop or a street sweeper. Get the fuck out of my house unless you got a an official, real reason for being there. Go away.
But this is it. It's like the elevators, limited to 2 people, and people want to follow. People are afraid of laminated signs on the wall. People are afraid of badges and ID cards. It's like, where's the actual authority here? Where's the authority? Are you afraid they're going to hurt you? If you're genuinely afraid they're going to hurt you, then maybe it's time to come up with a strategy that doesn't involve fighting back. But if yelling at them and not letting them speak and just saying, I do not recognize your authority, you have no right to be here, get off my land, if that's enough to make them run, they have no authority.
But exactly, that's what I'm saying. In the UK, I did the calculation. There's something like 8 million able-bodied men between the age of 22 and 40, something like that. There's 125,000 police. Why is anybody listening to anything they're saying? No, they're not.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, it's just retarded. But that's why I'm saying I've got a much more positive outlook on all this stuff, because I'm thinking just build your little community, take no shit, and make sure that the people that you surround yourself with, that's why I'm saying, Vox has been saying this for a long time. I don't know, I've just always kind of thought that way, but and that's partly why, people say, oh, but I'm a, some Protestant guy, I'm a Christ follower. I don't care, you're a heretic, get away from me. They're like, but you're so intolerant. Yep, I am intolerant. Do you know why? Because the zealots like me, those guys are not going to step back. And you know why? Not because I'm their buddy, not because I'm their friend, but because they're a zealot like me. It doesn't matter if they're alone. They're not going to step back anyway. And I'd rather have 10 guys like that than 1,000. I'm a Christ follower and I just don't drink the grape juice, What?
Yeah, and like they're afraid of the laminated signs and badges, they're afraid of labels being slapped on them like intolerant, but we're not.
Uh,
You call me intolerant? Yeah, I'm intolerant. You call me racist? Sure. Doesn't mean I hate anyone, but like call me what you want. I'm not afraid of the
exactly.
labels anymore. They're gonna come at me either way. Call me whatever you want, but
I
where's your
even go the
actual
other I
authority?
even go the other way when they say, "Well, you're intolerant." I say, "Well, of course. Are you a
Hmm.
baptized Catholic? Get out of my house, otherwise." It's just like I don't care if that's
Well,
what
there goes my
freaks you
North
out.
Italian holiday.
If that's what freaks you out, then run away from me
Yeah.
because I am not a guy that you
Yes.
should be hanging
I'm a
around with.
scary man.
That's right. Go. It's like it's just sad.
Yeah, and I don't enjoy the company of quivering cowards. So
Exactly.
yeah,
We had a
fuck right
couple
off.
of incidents with this with these guys that I'm saying we're busy. We're still busy making sure that we've got like living conditions. Because one of the guys is trying to buy a pretty not derelict, but a house that needs work. And again, as a community, we're like one guy is trying to buy a house that is saying, yeah, I want it to be big enough that it can house other Catholics that can't afford to buy a house but are willing to put in sweat equity sort of thing, and then they can live there rent free. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, that's what I want. That's what we're doing, right? And I'm like, cool. Now I'm pretty misanthropic, so I'm not going to do that because I don't want random strangers living in my house.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. But hey, you've got a guy. You got a guy.
no,
That's something.
no,
That's a
no. I
start.
mean, exactly. And if I have to throw money at it, I have to throw my equipment, my time, whatever. I'll throw all of that at it, no problem. And
Mm.
that's how we're putting this stuff together. I mean, there are people that don't have the skills I have, but like there are teachers. One guy's a teacher, and he's a very nice. But every one of these guys, some of them are really nice guys that don't have my proclivity for two-handed swords or whatever to resolve disputes. But
I
nevertheless,
prefer the one-handed katana
yeah,
myself.
not any one of these guys will step back. I've seen them in situations where you sort of think, okay, I sort of expect them to like flinch. Nothing, not a fuck, not even a millimeter of like hesitation. It was just like, no, 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 this is the right thing to do. We're here. And I'm like, wait, but this
Yeah.
is not kind of your thing, It's like there's blood on the walls now, and it's kind of looking ugly. This is kind of my thing, and they're like, no, 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 we're your buddy. We're right here. I was like, really? It's like that does.
Yeah. True
I've been,
true loyalty is so priceless now. It seems to be the rarest commodity, and we see that
yeah,
people's thresholds are being pushed. People are betraying their own nations, they're
yeah,
betraying their own families, they're betraying their own ability to reason, and they're going along with the way they're being herded by the masters. And so yeah, to when you find a friend who's loyal, regardless of what you agree on or
yeah.
what loyalty is the thing people don't understand. It's like
It is, but I have come to, I've always had loyalty as they think. That was like, I don't know, being Venetian, Italian, whatever. It gets built in, It's like
mm,
I don't know, the whole concept of like snitching and that is just, I don't know. There's no Italian that grows up thinking snitching is fine,
yeah.
It's just
Well,
not done.
what we're seeing here in Australia at the moment is, just the other day, a guy got a blood clot from the AstraZeneca not vaccine,
Yeah,
and then it couldn't be covered up, it couldn't be downplayed, so it's all over the mainstream media. And but what they've been saying is, that the government and the other authorities, including themselves, will say that the risk is minor, it does exist, but it's outweighed by the importance of protecting the nation. So they look down on the individual who just got a blood clot in his brain,
Yeah.
and they go, your life doesn't matter. Shut up. Stop
Yeah.
complaining. Think about the bigger picture here. So
Yeah.
they've got no loyalty to the individual. Why should the individual have any loyalty to a nation that does not give a damn and sees them as a statistical number?
Well, that doesn't even exist.
And
It's not a
we're
nation, is
seeing
it?
yes, that's right. It's a fake nation, and we're seeing the huge dividing line now is particularly for Christians is who among us recognize and submit to the authorities of this world. Well, they're of this world if they do, and those
Yeah.
who don't, and I understand, self-preservation, you don't necessarily want to cause trouble and break the law just for the sake of it. But if you're going along with the law strategically to protect yourself and your family and your interests, that's one thing. But if you actually believe in the authority
Yeah.
that the world has, then you're of this world.
Well,
And I'm not of this world. My authority comes from heaven. My
well,
king is in heaven, and
that's
I'll wait for his return, but I don't recognize my prime minister. I don't recognize the police. They're all just people in costumes
yeah.
pretending to have authority that they don't really have.
Well, you see, I always had that take, even as a kid. I mean, I remember when we had this professor of politics or politics or whatever. He said, like, oh, politics affect everybody. And I looked at him to his face, and I was like, nah, politics affects you, doesn't affect me. And he goes, oh, but you see, if you don't understand politics, then, it's like, no, dude, you don't get it. It's not that I don't understand politics. It's that I don't care. I don't care about your rules. I don't care about your
It's a
laws.
game.
I don't care about any of that shit. I'll do what I gotta do just to dodge whatever crap you're trying to put me into. But I'm gonna do what I want to do, and that's how it's gonna be. And that's the thing. Like what I've realized. So I've always had that sense of loyalty. Like the friends I've had from childhood, I'm still friends with them, and those guys have seen some serious shit. You know, I've always been about loyalty. But one thing that I've definitely seen in physical action that has surprised me, to be honest, is the loyalty that you get from actual Catholics that are like rooted in that rock, I guess, of faith is another level up. It's like I don't know how to even describe it. It is something that I've never come across anywhere else. And keep in mind, I've been in situations where you're gonna potentially get shot. You're dealing with people that are trying to kill you. You're dealing with people that you work with that are trained, to deal with those situations. And I've never seen the level of loyalty that I'm seeing now, even in those situations. And there were people that are very loyal in those situations, but I don't know how to explain it. It's a completely different aspect of loyalty, which
And we're so sort of, I guess, cowardly in general in the modern world by the way we've been weakened and programmed and become totally reliant on these global systems that so many Christians, and I guess none of us know till we're there, but we may not have the courage of the martyrs and the saints, but it's clear in the Bible too that there's a special place in heaven of
yeah,
honor for those who burn on the stake singing Jesus's praises. Go down praising the Lord. Don't
yeah,
worry so
yeah,
much about this life. This is level one. This
yeah,
is a game. You've been thrown into a world that's been occupied by evil, and you're being tested now. How much light can you bring? How much goodness, truth, and beauty can you bring with the time you've been given? But it's just a little blip. It's nothing compared to eternity. It's literally nothing. It's just
yeah.
it's just the ride you're on, and the ride never ends. You just get to the next level of it after this. So don't worry about death so much. Don't fear death. We're promised eternal life. And if you're so afraid of death that you'll betray the truth and you'll betray beauty and goodness, then you don't really believe, do you?
No, well, to be fair, I was never particularly afraid of death because I don't know, just the way my brain works. But I'm, to a certain extent, I'm probably more afraid of death now than I've ever been before because for a variety of reasons. One is, your
Well, you've
kids,
got
and I'm
little
kind of like
kids.
thinking, that. And the other one is, it's not a huge part, but we discussed this, with my loyal henchman. He's been reading up on purgatory and hell and that sort of stuff. And he says, Catholic hell is the worst hell of all because it's brutal. In like all the other religions, like, oh, well, if you're a good boy, you go to heaven. In Catholicism, like, well, if you're good and you do everything right and you're lucky, you get to purgatory, which is basically hell. The only difference is that in purgatory, you have the hope, that eventually you'll get into heaven. But of course, some people will stay into purgatory until the end of time. So you could be that guy. That's like, wait,
Yeah.
fuck, what? That's the best I can do, but kind of makes sense. And
hey, if all that gets burnt away is your sin and your folly,
well,
light it up,
yeah,
baby. Light it
yeah.
up. I want that shit gone. I don't want to take
I
any
do,
of that with me.
whenever I do think about purgatory, I'm like, man, oh, gee, I really, oh, if there was a way to dodge that, I'd really like to dodge that. But at the same time, I don't
If
know,
it's the
basically.
Lord's will, if it's His judgment, it's perfectly righteous.
Yeah,
That's where I'm at. It's like I don't even worry about heaven and hell. I put my faith in the Lord, and I trust in Him. And if He sees fit for any reason whatsoever to deem my sins unforgivable, which I don't believe He will, but if He sees it that way and decides that there's no place in eternity for me, well, let it be done.
yeah,
It's His universe. It's His creation. I submit to His will. And I suspect because that's how I feel about it, that it sort of
yeah,
gives me access to eternity.
yeah,
But I don't. I'm not the judge. I don't get to
yeah,
decide.
yeah, yeah. No, that would definitely suck. Being in hell, that'd be bad. It's just,
Mm. Yeah,
like I said,
yeah,
it's
I
not
don't
my
want that.
primary motivation for being. It's not even the third, or I don't think it's in the top 10 of the list. But yeah, it definitely would suck. I really hope I don't end up in hell.
And I think the fear of hell as a religious motivator is probably one of the worst bases for a Christian faith. And there's a lot of people who I think historically and today do kind of go through the motions of
Yeah.
being Christian, being Catholic, being Orthodox, whatever it is. They go through the motions and they do the things, they do the sacraments, they do the baptism and all of that because they are afraid. But if it leads them to a lukewarm faith in their day to day life where they don't actually think
Well,
about
but you see, the thing,
and try to follow Jesus,
yeah, I know what you're
then
saying,
then I think they're missing the point.
but I think even that, those people are not people who truly have any inkling of what hell is really like. The
Mm.
thing is, if you do stop and think about it and ponder it and read a couple of books, like I'm trying to remember the book that the Loyal Henchman has. I forget the title. It's a big tome like that, but it takes each topic and covers it in depth, and it does cover purgatory. And you're like, if you start thinking, or rather than thinking, if you catechize yourself properly in the Catholic faith, and you realize what actually hell is, trust me, at that point, you're going to have a little bit of fear there going, ooh, oh, that's what it is? I just kind of thought it was a
Mm.
fiery, shitty place. Oh no, that is just the La La Land happy, happy version. Wait a minute.
Mm.
Hell is this? And it all follows logically from like, ooh, yeah, no, I don't want to end up there. And in that
Well,
case,
I'm still waiting for my leather-bound copy of the Divine Comedy to arrive, and
yeah,
when it does, I'll peruse, and I might come back to you with a bit more fear in my heart.
the thing is, once you really understand what hell is, the Catholic hell, what is represented by that, then I would say it's a positive fear because I agree with you that generally speaking, like doing things out of fear is kind of pathetic. But there is a different quality of fear. It's the same fear that you have, like let's say, if you think, let's say you have a good dad, let's say you're a relatively, you've got a father that's a good parent and whatever. The fear of totally disappointing your father forever, like doing something that is so beyond the pale that your own dad just goes, you're scum,
Mm.
and he really
Yeah, yeah.
believes that. That kind of fear is, I would call, a positive fear, because it's
Yes.
it's pushing you to do good. And if you realize what hell really is, you're kind of like, oh, I really don't want to be there. First of all, because it sucks. And secondly, because if I'm there, it means I have fucked everything up irredeemably forever. It's like,
but there's something below that fear axiomatically, and this is what I'm getting at, is I don't think fear of God or fear of hell is a bad thing at all. I think it's necessary, it's important, and it's a crucial dimension of faith. But why do, in your example, why do we fear the rejection of our earthly father in that way? Because we love him.
of course.
So the love is first, the love of the Father.
Oh yeah.
And the faith in his righteous judgment is first. And then the fear of being on the wrong side of that comes from that love. But the love is the first thing,
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, I agree with that.
Because otherwise you wouldn't care. If it's like, if you don't love God, and this is what we see with all the Satanists who are having their orgies all over the planet, they don't fear God because they don't love him. They hate him, in fact. They hate the mention of Jesus Christ. And so it's all a fantastic pleasure ride for them until level 2. Then it's not going to be so fun.
Let me quickly read a couple of comments. So Amanda John was saying that you will invite everyone to her wedding on Champions of the Light, but it will be in Italy. It is horrible, the disrespect in some Novus Order churches, and most of the old priests know the Latin Rite. I'm trying to convince some to bring it back. Amanda, although your efforts are great, the point is, if you are a fake priest of the Novus Ordo, you're either criminally incompetent to a point that literally makes you criminally incompetent, or you're part of the problem. So trying to convince those guys, if you're gonna convince them, then they should convert to sedevacantism there and then, repent of their sins, and live the rest of their days as monks, pretty much. So Seramer says, for the word of God is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged swords, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit, and of the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of thoughts. Okay. Unicorn Cupcake, who is one of the Gammas, by the way, says Jesus died so we could have Jesus died so we could have Bertaria. Ah, yes, the Gammas are trying to stoke the fires of discontent between the Kurgan and Big Bear. I haven't listened to anything that guy said in over a year now, so I don't know. Woolly Ram, to paraphrase Chesterton, faith enables reason. Yes, it does. Okay, and Suramer, in Norway, it came with the axe. Amen. I'm not sure what that refers to.
Oh, when I was talking about
right.
Christendom being coming from the sword.
Yeah.
In part, yeah. In Norway, it was an axe. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
No, that's true.
I like that. Yeah.
But again, it didn't, because Suramer in Norway, your Viking guys, used to raid the monasteries because they were easy prey. And they did it so many times that eventually the monasteries said, listen, you can have land, you can live here, just stop raiding us. So it was done with love. That's what made the Vikings become Christians. And then the Vikings ended up being the Normans and the Franks, who went in the Crusades and kicked ass everywhere else as well. But they became Catholics because they were basically said, look, just stop killing us and raping and pillaging, live here. And then they started protecting the monasteries. So,
and my family blood and name is a living testament to that. My traditional Irish surname, it's Higgins. It was anglicised in recent centuries, but it was O'Higgins, and before that, I'm not sure how to pronounce the Gaelic version, but the Gaelic equivalent of O'Higgins, which actually means of the Vikings. And there's a
interesting,
a pretty clear lineage back to the Viking wars in Ireland and the eventual settling down of those barbarian pagans into Catholicism.
Good. So
or as my Orthodox bros would argue.
So don't you be a turncoat and go Orthodox now. You know what the right path is.
Hang on, but it was one church back in the days of St. Patrick. He was, and they claim him as an Orthodox saint, just as the Catholics claim him. So
no.
I'm a pre-schismatic, I think.
Look at Catholic Ireland. Yeah, those guys fought for how many years? They weren't Orthodox. They're Catholics.
Not against the Orthodox. against the protty English scum.
Yeah, but of course they didn't fight against the Orthodox. The Orthodox were too far, minding their own business. You know, doing deals with the Muslims down in Turkey. That's what they did.
Oh, you're so.
I'm so correct.
You won't let
historically.
That one lie. You won't let that one lie.
No.
Yeah. No, I'm just going to go with pre-schismatic.
Woolly Ram says in the Old Testament, one of the cursed God places against old Israel is that they will tremble in fear from falling leaf if they stray from his light. Oh well, I don't know how that's been working out in Israel, but. And Amanda Jones says, Protestants are some of the most intolerant people I've ever met. It's not just that,
and
it's
yet
ignorant.
Not intolerant enough. Yeah, they're intolerant of the traditional church, but they're not intolerant enough of pedophilia and homosexuality and female church leadership and all these things that are working their way through the various denominations of Protestantism. It's hard. I mean, we do it for convenience, but Protestantism is not a monolith. It's a hugely fractured, multifaceted expansion on progressivism, religious progressivism, and some of them are more right than others. They're not. I think they're all wrong in their presumption of sola scriptura. That was the big falsification that I reached, was that sola scriptura is retarded.
Well, of course,
and so all of Protestantism is operating on a false basis, but within their various specific practices and beliefs, they're not all equal. Some are closer to the truth than others.
Yeah, sure, but my point is, like, the way I look at it is, like, if you think of a bullseye, right? None of us is hitting the bullseye. We're all off by something, right? But now, the way I'm saying is, like, if you're Catholic, you're missing. You're in the ring close to the bullseye. If you're Orthodox, you're in the next ring out. If you're Protestant, like, if the bullseye is like let's say the bullseye is a 2-meter diameter bullseye. If you're a Protestant, the closest you can come to the truth is 1.5 meters from the center, 1,500 years out, and then you split into 40,000 little holes.
I might go even further. If you're a Protestant, you might be throwing the dart backwards.
Yeah, some of them certainly are. The ones that take out the cross from the church because it might offend Muslims, like what? And it's a female lesbian priest. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
those guys are not even.
Like I said earlier, I think the Novus Ordo Church is just another flavor of Protestantism. It's just dressed in the clothing of Catholicism.
Oh, I've got 5 minutes of interview trial time left. All right, I guess I have to purchase something. I'm not sure if I can do it live, but if this cuts out in 5 minutes, let me just see if I can do it now.
That's probably a good time anyway. I've got to take my son out today.
Oh, good.
He was anxiously awaiting me finishing this meeting and hoping it would be cancelled because he wants his papa all to himself.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, you should have said.
No, it's fine. We're not on a specific schedule, but I feel like it's been a good chunky chat.
No, it has, yeah.
And you've stayed up very late for me. I appreciate it.
No worries at all. I'll just quickly read any last comments. I mean, if this cuts out, I'll probably carry on for another 10 minutes just to.
Oh yeah.
Woolly Ram
Go
says.
For it. Hey, it's your show.
Woolly Ram says, "Martyrdom, Kurgan, martyrdom." See, if I have to be a martyr, I hope it's like age 105 with a dead man switch and a lot of C4 strapped to my body, surrounded by my enemies.
Make it useful. Make it a useful martyrdom. Yeah. Don't line up at the martyrdom, the martyr disposal clinic they're going to install on the corner right next to the abortion clinic.
Exactly.
Don't line up.
Fuck that. Fear of the Lord is beginning of knowledge. Yeah. So they say. I still have to learn some of that. Nope, fear of hell is a legitimate and supernatural aspect of faith. It is. True virtue comes from the fear of hell. Okay. Amanda Jones.
Well, see, now we covered that before. I think it's right, but it's at least one step removed from the axiom of love.
Yeah. Amanda Jones makes a valid point. She says, if you want to be scared of hell, watch exorcism videos and saints doing exorcism. Creepy. Now, I haven't watched those, and I don't think I will, because I read Malachi Martin's book, which is truly one of the scariest books I've ever read. And it's scary because you can feel that when you're reading it, if you let that stuff get you too much, you could like open yourself up to like some bad shit, put it that way.
Yeah,
So
I think last time I spoke to you, I was telling you about how I had some Freemason codices.
yeah,
That's the plural of codex,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, yeah,
Codices.
yeah.
And they were my great grandfather's. He was a Freemason. He was a really bad man, a truly evil
Wow.
man. And you know that's something that's sort of made up part of the story of my recent family. And you know, the kind of guy that I am, I like to look into the abyss a bit too much. So I've got to manage myself in that sense. And I ended up throwing them in the fire. I thought about sending them to you, Giuseppe. I thought about putting them in the post to you because I know you're interested in that sort of
Yeah.
research and knowing about that stuff. But I made the decision to burn them instead because I thought maybe a degree of superstitious paranoia there. But I thought, well, knowing what I know about the man who used these books and the evil that he did against his own children as part of it, I felt it better to just not look into that abyss and to just destroy it. And if I don't want to do it, I certainly wouldn't want to put it upon your family. You know, I wouldn't want to throw that curse your way.
I always trust those kind of instinctive feelings. I think you know, I respect your decision. It was some quick. I've got 2 minutes left, so I don't know what happens eventually. Probably cut out. I don't know. Send me an advert or something.
Well, I'll sign off then.
Okay.
You know, just in case, and
Yeah.
if you can carry on, you can carry on. But yeah, great chatting to you again,
No,
G. It's good to
thanks,
see your
James.
face
Thanks
and see you
for
in a better circumstance.
coming on, and have a great time with your kid, your son.
I will indeed, and I'll see all y'all in the chats on Social Galactic or Champions of the
I
Light.
will, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon on a couple of other things. There it is. Join all of you. Join that. Buy his book. I don't know what the name is of your book, but you got a minute.
There's a few of them. You'll find it on Champions. It's not hard to find once you're there.
Okay, cool. Thanks, James. I'm gonna say
right.
good night to you, and I'll carry
Thanks,
on for
G.
a few minutes. Cheers. Bye.
God bless, brother.
Bye. Okay. So that was James. I think we're still going. Simon, we are on tomorrow night at my 9 p.m. Just, you know, for the time, just assume I'm in Rome, okay? 2000 boys of stream, Gemma Kurgan, looking forward to our chat tomorrow. Yes, indeed, so am I. And we're YTFM. Hi, Kurgan, I've been watching your videos since last year, and I'm slowly but surely watching all your videos. I never commented on your live streams because I always download before watching. Okay, that's cool. I'm from South Africa. I love your objectives, and you have helped me see myself as a Catholic after I have lost interest in Protestant churches a few years ago. Very good. I suggest you get Possibly Believe if you haven't read it yet, and if you have, Reclaiming the Catholic Church, both of which are on Amazon, and you should be able to find them there relatively easily. And I hope that you can get baptized in the proper church soon. LS16 says also Christian missionaries showed up and cut down their false god tree with the axe, talking about the Vikings. So yeah, that's a good point. I'd forgotten about that. Hello, David Perkins. And are Freemasons secret Satanists? Well, if you know anything about Freemasonry, they're not even secret Satan. The higher ranks of Freemasonry is absolute Satanism. It literally is worshipping Lucifer. But they pretend to be like, you know, just a brotherhood of men sort of thing. But yeah, they're absolutely Satanist. And Woolly Ram says, either of you noticed how after conversion your intuition becomes sharp and dependable? I've always had a pretty good intuition, but yeah, I think there's... thanks for streaming, Jim. I think my kid is up, so I'm going to say goodnight because my little boy is unhappy. And thank you all for being here. And I'll speak to you tomorrow night again when I've got Simon the Amputee on, which is going to be a cool stream about courage in the face of adversity. Good night.